This is the strangest baby I have ever seen. They have no facial features. Their lower bodies are replaced by digestive organs and tentacles. However, after just 2.5 years, they grow to look no different from normal people. They even possess various abilities. Some children can leap several meters with ease. They can stick to walls without any external force. Some children can fall from dozens of meters high and remain completely unharmed. But the most peculiar one is Huna. He loves to draw portraits of other children. But what he draws are their posthumous appearances. There are giant birds soaring in the sky, and monstrous fish with 8 arms. Other children mock his paintings as wild fantasies. Little do they know that all of this will soon become reality. Shishang. This might be the most difficult anime to evaluate this year. Its setting is fresh, and the suspense is maxed out. The original work leans towards an adult audience, similar to Made in Abyss. There are many depictions of violence and sex. Its twisted worldview and overwhelming tragedy might deter a significant number of viewers. However, the way it later ties up its foreshadowing, and the intricate connections between countless details will absolutely thrill those who stick with it. The anime narrates through 2 world lines, Demon Realm and Heaven. Now, the main story begins. From now on, remember every detail in this story. This is a paradise that feels like heaven. The children live here in carefree happiness. Heimei suddenly tells the boy, Shishang, that there is a test today. Shishang is clearly stunned, because they were never informed about it. Yet, a surprise math test really does arrive. As everyone begins answering questions, Shishang suddenly notices that the last question seems strange. The question reads, do you want to go beyond the outside? Just as he is about to ask what this means, question number 11 on his paper vanishes. Outside the classroom, where there are no lessons, Huna is drawing alone. His drawing depicts a fish covered in human arms. The girl, Juju, asks Huna why the fish has arms. Have you seen one before? Huna says it's just his imagination. Juju finds the drawing interesting and begs him to give it to her. Huna agrees to give it to her once he's finished. Meanwhile, the test has concluded. Shishang asks Meimei how she knew there would be a test. Meimei replies that she simply had a vague premonition. She then asks Shishang what he thinks the outside world has become. Shishang is puzzled. He looks around and says, nothing has changed. Meimei clarifies, I mean beyond the walls. Lately, she has had a growing premonition, one that is becoming clearer. If she keeps chanting her wish to leave, 2 people will come to rescue her. And one of them looks exactly like Shishang. That night, Shishang, thinking about what Meimei said during the day, can't fall asleep. So he steps outside. By chance, he runs into the director. He asks, is there an outside beyond here? The director is surprised by Shishang's question. Shishang explains, Meimei told me about it. The surrounding adults seem like they want to stop this conversation. But the director says, it's fine. They will have to know sooner or later. There is indeed an outside beyond here. The Demon Realm branch storyline begins. Decades ago, a great catastrophe suddenly struck. The world has since fallen into ruin. On the streets, a pair of siblings are searching for food. The girl is named Zhanzi. The boy is named Zhenlu, and his face is identical to Shishang's. They arrive at an abandoned house and begin searching. Inside the bedroom, 2 dried-up corpses lie on the bed. Their fingers are interlocked. It is said that most survivors of the disaster died of starvation. The 2 continue to the next house. Here, they find some extremely precious canned food. Late at night, Zhanzi stares at a photo in her hand, lost in thought. Zhenlu asks if it's her boyfriend. Zhanzi replies, no, just someone I really want to see. In reality, they are not siblings. Zhanzi was entrusted with escorting Zhenlu to a place called Heaven. The next morning, they continue their journey. However, on the way, they encounter a group of thugs trying to rob them. Seeing their delicate faces, the men have other intentions. Zhenlu states, I'm a guy. One of the men exclaims, what a pity. I'm a guy too. Do you think I'm stupid? Why include this dialogue? Because it's foreshadowing. In the fight that follows, Zhenlu displays extraordinary combat skills. Meanwhile, Zhanzi suddenly pulls out a uniquely shaped gun and fires. A nearby utility pole melts instantly. The gang of thugs trembles in fear. Zhanzi threatens them, demanding to be taken to their hideout. There, she spots a generator. She then orders them to charge a battery for her. She also acquires what appears to be a map leading to Heaven. After charging, one of the men asks, what kind of battery is this? Handgun battery, U.S. Air Force. You little brat. This whole time, Zhanzi had been bluffing with an unloaded gun. In fact, she wasn't even sure if the remaining charge was enough for a shot. Fortunately, it worked. Hearing this, the thugs grow even more enraged. But seeing the now fully charged gun, they hurriedly flee. As the sun sets, the 2 chat about their ages while walking. Zhenlu says he's about 15 years old. As for Zhanzi, she first says she's 18, then changes it to 20. As they continue walking, they stumble upon an operating inn. After paying a fee, the innkeeper says they can stay. Zhanzi felt it was too cheap and a bit unfair, so she handed over a few batteries. The innkeeper gratefully accepted them. Then, Zhanzi asked if she had seen the person in the photo. The innkeeper said she hadn't. In the bathroom, Zhanzi undressed. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, her face flushed red, and she kissed the glass. At dinner time, the innkeeper warned them not to wander outside at night. Recently, a monster had been spotted lurking nearby. A monster? Hiruko, you mean the man-eater, right? Zhanzi said she knew about these creatures and could kill them. However, upon hearing this, the innkeeper's face did not brighten with relief. Instead, it darkened. Then, she served an exceptionally lavish dinner. The group enjoyed the feast. Back in the room, Zhenlu collapsed onto the bed and immediately fell asleep. Meanwhile, after turning off the lights, Zhanzi accidentally tripped and fell. For some reason, she felt unusually exhausted today. Without thinking much, she slowly closed her eyes. In another part of the inn, the innkeeper loaded her gun. The full moon hung high in the sky. A strange figure leapt down from the heavens. Beyond this place, is there really an outside? There is indeed an outside beyond this place. However, it is a filthy world. Lurking within it are monsters so horrifying they make one retch. A living hell. A woman ran toward a giant monster, shouting that it was her child. She then slowly approached and gently stroked it. Look, everyone. In her dreams, Zhanzi suddenly awoke with a start. On the glass behind her, a grotesque tentacle covered in eyes was clinging to the surface. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. The monster vanished. Zhanzi quickly woke Zhenlu. The two rushed outside. Zhanzi handed Zhenlu a cup of cold water, telling him to drink it to stay alert. They had been drugged with sleeping pills. The innkeeper urged them to hurry back, saying it was too dangerous. Zhanzi pulled out her laser gun, declaring that she could take it down. The monster's shadow flickered past. The two immediately gave chase. Suddenly, a massive head lunged out. Zhanzi's flashlight was knocked away. The monstrous creature's full form appeared before them. Zhenlu threw a wooden barrel, but it shattered mid-air. Though he couldn't see clearly, Zhenlu heard the distinct sound of something whip-like cutting through the air. The monster charged at them. Zhanzi immediately tackled Zhenlu to the ground. With a loud boom, the car exploded. This time, Zhenlu finally saw it clearly. Each of the monster's arms had 3 whips. If they didn't take those out, they wouldn't even get close. During their escape, Zhanzi took the chance and fired a shot. One of the monster's arms and a wing were blown off. Now, all that was left was to destroy its remaining arm. Then, Zhenlu could finish it off. However, just as Zhanzi was about to deliver the fatal shot, the innkeeper suddenly appeared and knocked her aside. Though the shot still landed, 1 whip remained. The innkeeper looked up and shouted at the monster. Wait, that's my son. Zhanzi asked, did your son get eaten by the monster? No, urine is inside. He became urine. At that moment, Zhanzi finally understood. The innkeeper had drugged them to protect the monster. She told the innkeeper she had witnessed it herself. These monsters bite their prey apart and completely digest them. So it's impossible for it to be your son. But the innkeeper was adamant. Because when I was attacked, it saved me. Zhanzi was speechless. She had already said everything. She couldn't bring herself to kill it. Besides, she was out of bullets. The innkeeper walked toward the monster, trying to show it that they meant no harm. Watching this unfold, Zhanzi couldn't help but think there really are monsters that understand human speech. See? I told you. In an instant, the innkeeper was sliced into pieces. Massive tentacles reached down to the bloody remains. Slowly, it devoured them. At that moment, Zhanzi spoke. The whips only swing in one direction. There's a delay between each attack. Someone just died, and you're still analyzing the fight? If we don't, we'll die too. Zhenlu wiped the tears from the corner of Zhanzi's eyes and said, I'm sorry. Then, he stepped forward. A whip lashed through the air. The grotesque head hovered in mid-air. Zhenlu took a deep breath and charged forward. Zhenlu grabbed onto the monster's leg. Immediately, a glowing arm materialized. With a crushing grip, he shattered a pulsating mass that resembled a heart. The monster let out an agonizing shriek. Blood gushed out. Perhaps the children it devoured still retained some consciousness. That might explain why it didn't kill the innkeeper before. Or perhaps the innkeeper had intentionally let her son devour the guests. If they checked the guest registry, they could easily find out the truth. But now, it no longer mattered. The two resumed their journey. After crafting a simple raft, they set off toward the heaven location they had heard about from the thugs. Before long, they arrived. Zhenlu wasn't sure if this was truly heaven. He took out a small box. Inside was a syringe and a vial of medicine. He had heard that in heaven, there was someone who looked exactly like him. If he could find him and inject this medicine, it would help everyone. Zhanzi recalled the woman who had entrusted Zhenlu to her. Before she died, all she said was to take him to heaven. She also gave Zhanzi a gun. At that moment, a group of people approached. They invited Zhanzi and Zhenlu to meet the director. Through their conversation, they learned that this was just a gathering of ordinary survivors after the great disaster. They had chosen a simple life, sustaining themselves through farming. Night fell. Up until now, no one had recognized Zhenlu. Clearly, this was not the real heaven. Just as they were about to give up and leave, Zhenlu suddenly noticed that a symbol on a cardboard box matched the one on their gun. After asking about it, they learned that these boxes were used to transport vegetables and supplies to and from Tokyo. Perhaps tracing this symbol would lead to useful clues. So the two boarded a boat heading toward Tokyo. In the quiet night, Zhenlu confessed his love to Zhanzi. His sudden confession left Zhanzi flustered. Zhenlu impulsively tried to force himself on her. Moments later, he snapped out of it and repeatedly apologized. Zhanzi didn't blame him. Instead, she revealed something she had been keeping secret. It sounds crazy, but I'm serious. Please understand. My body is that of a girl. But in my mind, I am a man. So, in reality, I am a man. Because of an accident, a boy was attacked by the man-eating monster, Hiruko. His sister desperately pulled him out of the creature's mouth. However, by then, everything below his chest had been torn apart. When he woke up, he found that he had undergone a brain transplant and had become a woman. And the original owner of this body was his sister. The boy's name was Hiruko. He was called Zhanzi. Although his body was female, his mind was still male. That was why he felt an eerie joy when looking at himself in the mirror. That was why he rejected Zhenlu's confession. 5 years earlier, Hiruko was a resident of the Chuan Mountain Orphanage. He had an older sister named Tongzi. She was not only beautiful but also a highly skilled racer. Tongzi supported the orphanage with the prize money she won from races. At some point, Hiruko began to develop unusual feelings for his sister. He also had an older brother figure, Lumen. Whenever Hiruko was bullied by local thugs, Lumen would step in, beat them up, and teach Hiruko how to fight back. When the man-eating monsters appeared, Lumen was always the first to rush out and protect everyone. His strong and reliable back was forever engraved in Hiruko's memory. Hiruko always aspired to be like him. In the town, there was a doctor. People would seek his help whenever they were injured. However, a rumor began to spread. The doctor was secretly researching man-eating monsters and performing human experiments. A friend warned Hiruko to stay away from him. That day, his sister was in a race. Hiruko climbed onto a tall building to watch. At that moment, he suddenly spotted an invisible man-eating monster. To protect his sister, Hiruko grabbed his custom-made crossbow and decided to take it down alone. In the middle of a deserted road, the eerie creature moved slowly. Hiruko took his chance and fired. However, the arrow didn't even pierce the monster's skin. Realizing this, Hiruko pulled out a knife and tried to engage it up close. Just as he thought he had landed a hit, the monster swallowed his arm whole. He was struck. His other arm was also devoured. Hiruko was horrified realizing the monster was going to eat him completely. Lumen, save me. The race continued. At the end of the road, Tongzi suddenly saw the monster. And in its mouth was Hiruko. Tongzi drove her race car straight into the monster. She yanked Hiruko out with all her strength. But by then, everything below his chest had been completely devoured. Somebody, help, please, somebody, help. Sis. In the darkness, Hiruko felt his whole body paralyzed, only his head burned as if scalded by boiling water. He couldn't make a sound. The pain in his head grew unbearable. He didn't know how much time had passed. Suddenly, he woke up. And when he walked to the mirror he saw his sister staring back at him. Sis. Me, this patient, she. Takazawa, you shouldn't be out of bed yet. Shut up, I'm Hiruko. Get the sedative, I want my sister, sis. It was said that when the two were brought back, they were already at death's door. It was the doctor who saved her. But after treating her, the doctor disappeared. Hiruko had no idea what had happened to him. Why had his sister died? The doctor must have known everything. And before this, Lumen had said he was going to investigate the doctor's background. If Haruki could find him, maybe he'd get some answers. 4 months later, Haruki returned to the orphanage. But without his sister's financial support, everyone had already moved away. Then, he heard from others. Lumen had gone missing while investigating something. To find him, Haruki, now in his sister's body, took on various tasks and gave himself a new name, Janzi. 4 years passed until she finally met Zhenlu. Janzi told him everything that had happened to her. After hearing the truth, Zhenlu finally let go of his confusion. Their relationship returned to how it was before. A man, terrified, shouted that there was a giant fish outside the window. She was about to tell him to alert the captain. This episode is filled with countless foreshadowing and tragedies. I'll drop a few hints to help you experience true mind-blowing storytelling. And the mystery of the cover art. Faceless babies, fish with human arms, embarking on an adventure in future Japan. Then, we reach the end of episode 3. Huna is drawing again. This time, he draws a baby. Juju looks at it and says it's strange. Just then, Shishang grabs Juju and pulls her away. He is upset that she criticized Huna's drawing. But Juju says that's not what she meant. I've seen a real baby before. A real baby has no face. Do you want to see it? The story shifts back to the demon realm. A man-eating Hiruko with human arms appears. It looks exactly like the creature Huna had drawn and given to Juju. As the monster gets closer, Janzi fires a shot, but the bullet is completely blocked by the flowing water armor on its body. The scene then shifts back to heaven. Juju takes Shishang to a secret location. At the base of a towering wall, Juju takes off her shoes. Then, with a powerful leap, she climbs up with her bare hands. She opens a ventilation duct and tells Shishang, "You just have to go through here." Shishang tries but falls flat on the ground. Clearly, this isn't something normal humans can do. Story returns to the demon realm. The man-eating monster presses its palm against the ship's hull, moving like a suction-cupped tentacle. It climbs upward, inching closer. There are still 30 minutes before they reach shore, but the ship won't last that long. Their only choice now is to kill it. Shanzi notices that the fish monster moves and defends itself using a layer of water membrane. She comes up with an idea. Janzi steps onto the deck and deliberately provokes it. The fish monster, hearing the noise, charges at her furiously. The two lure it into the ship's interior. A water cannon is fired. The massive impact shatters the railing. Zhenlu takes the chance to open the iron door leading to the cargo hold. The place is packed with cardboard boxes. The two crawl inside. The fish monster follows them in. At that moment, the dry cardboard and the hemp inside begin rapidly absorbing the water from its body. Within moments, the fish monster completely loses its ability to move. Plan worked. Zhenlu proceeded with the final move. As his palm neared the fish monster, it quickly perished. Meanwhile, in heaven, Shishang moved a robot close to the wall. He then stepped onto it, letting it carry him upwards slowly. Just like that, the two successfully reached the ventilation duct. Juju was thrilled by the sense of adventure. After exploring for a while, they crawled into the maintenance room. Behind a glass chamber was what Juju called a real baby. They had no faces, nor did they have legs. One of them, upon seeing Shishang, seemed to sense a strange familiarity and pressed against the glass. At that moment, an alarm sounded. Juju immediately jumped onto the ceiling. Shishang, however, froze in panic. Security personnel checked the surveillance feed. The monitor showed that everything was normal, no intruders detected. Yet, Shishang was still standing there, motionless. Seeing they hadn't been discovered, the two prepared to escape. Shishang failed to notice he had left a footprint behind. Right after they left, one of the babies in the chamber suddenly spoke. Shishang. Yes, Mina. What is it? The director asked the humanoid entity before him. Any insights on the alarm earlier? After all, this place is like an extension of your own body. The humanoid entity shook its head. Seeing this, the director sighed helplessly. The next morning, Shishang visited Dorashio's room. By now, he was gravely ill. Dorashio pulled Shishang close and kissed him. Shishang, flustered, pushed him away and fled. At that moment, Huna happened to witness everything.